Today we have just one announcement. Today, after the service, members and friends of the congregation can get their picture taken for the church directory. Don't miss out. See Bev Bostrom in Davis Hall across the way. And we extend a warm welcome to everyone here this morning, both in person and on Zoom. So glad to have you all here by whichever method. And are there any visitors this morning who would be comfortable standing and giving us your name and where you're from? Is there anyone? Yay. I'll come to you with the mic.
Okay. My name is Eileen, and I live here in Prescott.
Welcome, Eileen. Anyone else? Okay. We hope that after the service, everyone will join us in Davis Hall, just through the foyer there, for coffee and nosh and conversation. And for the folks on Zoom, we will have a breakout room for you where you guys can interact together with the others who are Zooming. And for anyone who would like to learn more about the congregation and what's happening here at Granite Peak, sources for that information include our website, prescottuu.org, and our weekly Peak newsletter, plus our monthly newsletter, and both of those are available in the foyer. Our mission here at Granite Peak is that we are a compassionate spiritual community that celebrates diversity, nurtures the personal and spiritual growth of all ages, promotes justice for all, and serves the world we live in. Across the street, our program for kids over 5 is led by Sandra Palacios, who is our Children's Faith Development Coordinator, and she always has fun and engaging activities for exploration for the kids. We give thanks this morning to our pianist Karen Denny, our AV tech Paul Bonnell for generously filling in, to our Sunday morning manager Brian Willison, and all the many, many volunteers that it takes to make this service possible, and the coffee afterwards too. I ask you to please set your phones on embarrassment-free silent worship mode as we enter a time of reflection. And what we have now is a video from our administrator, Lisa.
Hello, I'm Lisa DeLeo, the Office Administrator for Granite Peak Unitarian Universalist Congregation. I'm also a member of the congregation. Imagine looking for a conscious and compassionate faith community that feels like home, and then finding it just as you answer a job post. Well, that was me in September when I followed in the footsteps of the amazing Tracy Powers and accepted the position as office administrator. Now, Tracy is also a member and still very active in our congregation. But I wanted to talk to you about how important you are. Special thanks to everyone who pledges support during our annual stewardship campaign. We could not do what we do without you. I'm so impressed with everyone's participation. Everyone's efforts make a positive difference, no matter how big or how small. Your pledges fund our staff salaries, our building costs, maintenance, utilities, our valuable community outreach programs, and so much more. This truly is a wonderful congregation, and I feel so blessed to be a part of it. There are so many diverse ways for people to find their way into our congregation. Diverse membership groups, multiple ministries, committees, events, choirs, outreach services, our food bank, so much more. I enjoy welcoming all of you at the congregational office, and I hope you'll call on me anytime you have a question or need help with a project, or maybe you have an idea you'd like to share. Well, thank you again for your financial and volunteer support of this terrific faith community and for welcoming me into it. I know that together we can do great things.
Thank you, Lisa. Together with congregations across this continent, we light our chalice, the symbol of Unitarian Universalism, and our chalice lighter this morning is Karen Denny. We light the chalice with the light of truth, and the chalice itself is our common cup, shared in equality, the cup of love for one another. And now, by way of introduction of our speaker, I'm going to tell you a story, a healing story. But before the story, I need to tell you my history as a Unitarian Universalist. I started attending at the age of 14 when apparently my mother was concerned about my being unchurched, and her friend offered to take me to church after I quit the Baptists when I was 10. With the UUs, I found a spiritual home because I found other atheists. And now to the story. In 2007, my seizures got worse again. Every day I was mostly in bed because the afternoon lightning and thunderstorms triggered the seizures from as far as 50 miles away. A friend told me about this chiropractor she was seeing in Prescott, and she warned me that he was different. Well, I needed different because none of the dozens of medications I had tried worked for me. Not the vitamin infusions, nor the gamma globulin, nor the acupuncture, nor anything. I had retreated far into the empty high desert, which helped until it didn't. And you can't run from lightning. So I needed different. My friend drove me to Prescott, because seizures, but I had no idea how different this was going to be. There was no back cracking ever. In fact, there was often no touch whatsoever. My goal was only to be able to go to the store for my own groceries again. But 3 sessions on that trip and 2 weeks later, I drove my own self the 5 hours back to Prescott for more sessions. So in case anybody is wondering, why did Krista invite her chiropractor to speak at church? It's because he's different. Because in his office, my mind began to let go enough that I started to open up. And a few months later, right there on his table in the middle of a session, this devout atheist here felt something brand new. I experienced God loving me. Yes, I will drive for heaven. You bet. And unbeknownst to me, this very congregation played a part. Lots of music that played in Dr. Teagarden's office was as different as his treatments. Completely unfamiliar to me, even if only because I had never been to a yoga class. A lot of what he was playing were Hindu chants, call and response, kirtan. Excuse me. I'm out of order. Okay. When in doubt, back up. Thank you. Okay. All right, yeah, here we go. So, unbeknownst to me, this congregation played a part in my healing with the kirtan. Because in April of 2006, a Jewish guy from Brooklyn, after a stint in India where he was renamed Krishna Das, he eventually became a celebrated kirtan singer. And he played a concert here in this room in April of 2006. And many more people could have been seated at, Potter House, but Potter House did not open their doors to Krishna Das and Kirtan. This Unitarian Universalist congregation did. And one of the sponsors of that concert is sitting right here. My teacher and mentor in the healing arts, author of the guidebook that forms the basis of the healthcare coaching that I do, founder of the revolutionary supplements company that I am one of the partners in, the man whose unconventional work opened me up to heal, my friend, Dr. Stephen Teagarden, to talk to us about the nature of love.
Good morning. Rather than shuffling with the papers, I find it's easier to look at the computer. It's an honor to have been invited here to speak with you all about something that is truly near and dear to my heart, and that is love. As Krista mentioned, the first time I came here was to hear a musician, Krishna Das, perform, and that was about 20 years ago. And in my naivety, I imagined, oh, hi everybody. I imagined that I would just come in here about 5 minutes to 10 and just come up to the podium and speak about love. But in conversing with Krista prior to the service, I realized that music is an integral part of the service, and so musical pieces had to be chosen. And it began to dawn on me that the music that was being selected for today's service might be rather different than what is customary. So if the music is in any way out of keeping, please accept my apologies. It only stemmed from ignorance. So hopefully the music is to your liking. Again, Krishna Das's name came up, and I came here 20-ish years ago. So as a way of introducing today's topic, love speaks to us all. And if I had a tagline, I would add to that, it really can be hard to listen. I'll tell a story about Krishna Das. Again, he was a Jewish man from Long Island, and curiously, he had the opportunity to become the lead singer of what went on to become a world-famous rock band. But he was interested in something different. And so in 1970, Krishna Das, he was Jeffrey Cagle, he went to India and became a devotee of the potently enlightened guru Neem Karoli Baba. Jeffrey Cagle became Krishna Das in India. After spending some years there, he came home to the United States with every intention of getting back to India to be with his beloved guru. But before he was able to make that trip, Neem Karoli Baba passed away. And Krishna Das was left reeling with the guilt and the shame of having gone back to a material life when what he truly longed for was the connection with love, with something far beyond what this world is about. those who have had the pleasure of sitting and basking in the love of one such as Neem Karoli Baba can uniquely understand the call to love and how strongly love's presence can take us over. And so Krishna Das was a young man, and he was torn between the desire for the things of the world and his longing for love from beyond this world. And in his despair, he turned to drugs and became deeply addicted to drugs. And this lasted for some time. But love speaks to us all. It unceasingly calls all of us to itself. And Krishna Das was no exception. Eventually, love worked Krishna Das out of his addiction, and he went on to become the world's, as Krista mentioned, preeminent performer of a devotional Hindu musical style known as kirtan. So let's play a little snippet of a Krishna Das song, and you can feel this man's devotion. You can feel how love speaks to him.
know where the switch is on this one. Okay. Now is the time in our service for our covenant. A covenant is a mutual promise, in this case, about how we deal with each other. Will the members and friends of the congregation please join me in saying together the words of our covenant? Love is the doctrine of this congregation, the quest for truth, its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve others in community, thus do we covenant together. Thank you. And as we prepare to take up the offering this morning, let's enjoy the feeling of community that we create, including with the support of your generosity. To contribute online, please visit our website, prescottuu.org. And if you are a new visitor, then please be here simply as our guest this morning. We also donate to the wider community through our Seeds of Support program to a different organization each month. This month's recipient is the PRISM Network, that's PRISM with an M, supporting the LGBTQ plus community in Yavapai County, with more information about them on the back of your order of service. And if you are putting your pledge to the church in the collection, please distinguish it as a pledge so that it doesn't get confused rather than for PRISM. The offering music this morning is Ong Namo by Snatam Kaur.
Oh
Let us be glad. We appreciate the generosity reflected in this offering. What is given in love is received with gratitude. Blessed be. And now for the heart of our service, silently sharing our joys and the sorrows or concerns on our hearts with each other by dropping a pebble into the bowl of water. As you drop your pebble, notice how the ripples in the water spread out, quietly spreading wider, in the same way that your joys and concerns ripple out into the whole congregation. We have 2 bowls, one on either side. If you have a joy or a concern that you would like to share with a pebble, please come forward as you are so moved and enjoy. We'll do Om Namo by Snatam Kaur.
Oh, my beloved, kindness of the heart, breath of life, I bow to. And I'm coming home. And I'm coming home. And I'm coming home. And I'm coming Om Namo Gurudev Namo. Om Namo Gurudev Namo. Om Namo Gurudev Namo. Gurudev 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 Gurudev
It is my sad opportunity to let you know that Anna Bess Robinson has passed. And anyone who would like to talk with Bobby Bollinger about the needs that Jim may have. Joy shared grows larger. Concerns shared, when one is ready, grow lighter. Breathe in the love and caring of this congregation that is here. And now from the Teal hymnal, we will sing hymn 1009, the meditation on breathing. There are two parts. We'll all start together on the rhythmic part. Breathe in, breathe out. And if you are a percussionist, or if you just like the lower part, you can stay with that the whole time. Breathe in, breathe out. The rest of us, after 4 repetitions of that, we will go ahead and move into the melody a couple of times through. And then we'll all go back to the rhythm. Breathe in, breathe out. 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 When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. Stephen.
Hello again. Love speaks to us all. Love is the very essence of our being. Perplexingly, love is perhaps the most difficult thing for humans to understand. Truly, for a human to understand, what am I? And what is God? And what is love? These are age-old riddles for us. We are love. We are God. God is love. God is us. Taken in unity, we are God. Ramana Maharshi was a wise, enlightened soul from the southernmost state of India. People from the world over describe that being in Ramana's presence was to experience a love far beyond anything that is known here on earth. Carl Jung said of Ramana that he was the most purely enlightened being since Jesus. People from the world over sought counsel from Ramana, and in a very quiet, soft, loving voice, he would often ask people, "What are you?" This wasn't meant as a riddle, but to help us recognize that which we are. We're love. We're God. We're Buddha, we're Christ, we're Great Spirit, we're whatever it is that we can identify with, and it's always okay. But Ramana was simply saying, dear soul, you are that which you seek, your love. Just be that. There is nothing to do, your love. And while love is the essence of what we are, we all have this thing called a personality. And the personality is otherwise known as an ego. What is a personality? What's an ego? It's the questioning part of the mind. It asks questions and doubts what it is. And in its self-proclaimed ignorance, it professes not to know. The personality, again, it asks and it asks and it asks and it doubts and it doubts and it doubts, and yet it persists in believing that it understands what reality is. The ego, the personality, often acts in ways that are antithetical to love. And we see it all around us on great display in the world today. It's been on display, though, for time immemorial. It is nothing new. So this ego, this doubting part of us, it's something to be questioned. It's something to be reckoned with. When we don't hear love's voice speaking to us because we're so enamored with our personality, it leads to suffering. And suffering is inherent in every being because we're all listening to the voice of the personality to the exclusion of hearing love's voice, which is always, always incessantly whispering in everyone's ear, in our inner mind. Suffering is the profound confusion that we are anything and everything but love. I'm this body and it's aging. I'm this thing I can't forgive from my past. We're none of these things. We're love, and we're taking on an identity that leads to great confusion and great suffering. How futile is the search for what we always already are? Hi, everybody. Love is our purpose. What if we are here on earth for one reason and one reason only, and that is to give love to a world that finds itself bereft of meaning, bereft of love, confused about its identity, not knowing what it is, on an endless search for what is only inside. And so our personalities spin us on an unending search for love out in the world, and we don't find it. It's home. It's inside of us. No one is cut off from love. And our purpose to come to this world is to give love to a world that is crying for it. What if we're going to remain consecrated to suffering until something in us says, choose me, I will give love to this world. Choose me. Please give me the greatest honor of just loving. Love is our purpose for being. How do you know that it's love and not just another of the ego's side trips? We've all taken them. We've all been on them. Love sounds like this. And we'll have a musical piece from Snatam Kaur that expresses it much more eloquently than I could ever hope to.
Lord, make me an instrument of thy peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. Where there is sadness, joy. Oh, divine Master, grant that I may know so mercy
It's the prayer of St. Francis of Assisi. One of the last lines she sang is, "Trust the light that shines within." That light is equally within all of us, and that light is love. That's what we are. We're light. It's a light so bright it just blinds us, but our personalities can get in that way of that. And I understand this quite well. I know quite well what it is to fear love. Love speaks to us all, but I was particularly hard of hearing, this I assure you. I didn't grow up religious. I didn't grow up reading the Bible. I didn't grow up going to church. And as I learned about religion as a child, it frankly frightened me. I grew up in Kansas, and back then, I don't know if spirituality had yet been invented, and if it had been, it was prohibited in Kansas. And so I heard a lot of things about eternal damnation and original sin and hellfire and brimstone, and it scared me, and I wasn't that interested in that message. And so I identified as an atheist as I got into my teenage years, and that persisted into my 30s. But nonetheless, I had a longing. I had a real longing to know, what is this all about? What is God? And I grew up in the Midwest, I mentioned. And so I really had a longing for Jesus, but I had an equal ambivalence as well. And I understand quite well where my ambivalence came from because, and it's true, Jesus spoke to me from time to time. And when that voice speaks to you, you don't have to question who or what it is. And the first time when I was 15 years old. I had just had my 15th birthday, and this voice came to me clearly. And it was a back and forth conversation over a period of a few weeks, and it materially changed my life. But I was a 15-year-old kid. And like most 15-year-old kids, you don't go and tell your friends. So I did what most people would do at that age. Pretty much forgot about it. So even though love speaks to us all, I was pretty hard of hearing, and I just wasn't quite ready to tune in. Fast forward. In my early 20s, I was doing payroll and taxes for a company in Kansas City, and I was really proud to work for this lovely little company. And then I was really troubled because we had a sales staff that would do anything to get a sale, and they would make these promises, and I was the liaison. I was out in the field talking to these customers who were very unhappy, and I'm having to tell them again and again, I'm sorry, we don't walk on water. We can't do these things. And it was really, really getting to the point where I was troubled, and I can still see I was at the office, I was 22 years old, I'm walking through, and a voice spoke to me so authoritatively and said, "Take philosophy classes, Penn Valley Community College." And I was like, yes, your lordship. And I did. I took the classes. I loved them. And I became even more of an atheist. And I'm thinking, this is ironic, but still I'm certainly not going to tell my philosophy profs about, well, Jesus actually kind of. And for a while, Socrates and Plato and Aristotle and the gang, they became my gods. And I met people like Paul Kurtz, who had spearheaded a secular humanist movement, and I became a libertarian and a vegetarian and lots of different things. And I longed to just get a PhD in philosophy and just go to some backwater town, kind of like Prescott, where I live and love, and just live out a quiet existence. But as things kind of continued to escalate at the payroll company, I found myself one morning, really, truly, I hit a break point. I went into my office, I shut the door, and I earnestly prayed to Jesus. Some atheist I was. But honest to God, and I said, please help me get out of this and do something that helps people. And They weren't my words. These words almost spoke themselves through me. So sometimes love, it will speak to us, and sometimes it will even speak for us and through us. And you don't have to be devout. You can even imagine that you are an atheist, and that's great. It's okay to be whatever we are. But from that moment forward, something in the praying atheist changed. And I began to have a connection that I was no longer so afraid of or so embarrassed of that I had to run from it. Love, it's the very essence of what we are. But our personalities, they have this really pesky habit that is deeply ingrained. And it's called judgment. And everyone knows it because everyone does it. Judgment stops love's voice in its tracks. There's a reason why Jesus implores, judge not. He said, judge not that ye be not judged, for with what judgment ye judge, ye shall be judged. This isn't hinting at damnation. It's saying, brother, sister, whatever you project on your fellow brothers and sisters comes from you. If you think you have disowned it and put it on somebody else, what you have done is strengthen it within yourself. You now believe that this person is the judgment that you have bestowed upon them, but what you have done is entrenched it within your own mind and heart. And now you can't get rid of it because you have made it so real for you. So that's why whatever judgment we put on another, we sit in. So judgment stops the voice of love. Judgment thus leads to suffering, because now I'm mired in all of my conflict, and I imagine it's in the world, and when I keep putting it out, now I have to defend myself against it because I put it out like a boomerang, it's going to come back, and I know it, and so I'm blocking it. So now I can't trust. So now I can't do what else we were instructed to do. These are very simple instructions. Love your neighbor. In my judgment, I fear my neighbor, and I thus hate my neighbor. And this is no way to hear love's voice. So that is why judgment, it's the same as suffering. Humans judge just as dogs sniff. To tell a human not to judge is like telling a dog, don't smell that, don't sniff that. It seems like dogs are wired to sniff and humans were wired to judge. And we need somebody to grab a hold of the leash from the other side and say, come now, that's enough. That's enough. There's nothing more going to come from that. And we're like, can I have 10 more lifetimes right here? And it's like, no, child, you don't want it. You're hurting yourself. If you think that being told by Jesus not to judge is too strict of a decree, I invite you to read the original words of the Buddha in Theravada Buddhism. That will make Jesus seem lenient. The Buddha was absolutely, unequivocally, emphatically clear. You must have nothing but the absolute utmost compassion and love for every being at all times, unfailingly, no matter what, no exception. Let me be clear, never an exception. It was a different world back then. Today, in our secular world, that seems inconvenient. But who's really genuinely happy? The judgment won't make us happy. It will harden our hearts. It will do the exact thing that we hope not to have happen. Love is a suspension of judgment and the end of suffering. The entire point of Buddhism is the overcoming of suffering. It is not possible to overcome any degree of suffering while I'm judging anything in this world. Judgment is misguided love. All the energy that we put into judging, imagine if we put that into love. Imagine if 8 billion souls on this planet, instead of filling it with judgment, were to fill it with love, even for an instant, everything would be different. The judgment that I put in cannot fix anything. It can only add to the misery and suffering of myself and all souls. That's the power of love's voice speaking through us, and I promise you, it is speaking in you. If there was anyone who was afraid of it, he is standing before you. And somehow I learned just a little to let it in. Nothing changes in this world when we judge. If for a moment we can stop judging, just for an instant, love will extend through us and into every mind at the same time, because that's what love does. One of the most beautiful, helpful, and humbling things that has ever come my way is this big blue book called A Course in Miracles. It's basically 1,300 pages in which we are advised, don't judge. Don't judge. Love your neighbor. Love your neighbor. There are thousands of beautiful and inspired passages in A Course in Miracles, and one that is apropos here is, you are still convinced that your understanding is a powerful contribution to the truth and makes it what it is. Yet we have emphasized that you need understand nothing. The personality believes that it can, that it must, and that it in fact does understand everything. But that which is asking question upon question and doubt and doubt and doubt and doubt shows that it doesn't understand. It's incapable. That's the personality. The personality, again, is antithetical to love, and we all have it. And lest we can cease the judging function of our personality, love's meaning, we just keep pushing it away. And so this understanding, the personality can't understand. Because it can't understand love, it questions it. And it's like a red editing marker that crosses it out as it comes into the mind and says, you can't be real. But all spiritual traditions ultimately teach that the ego isn't real. And it makes itself seem real by its incessant judging instead of loving. Again, if the mind were to cease to judge for an instant, it would be flooded with love, and that love would just extend out naturally, because that's what love does. It gives of itself, and it never stops giving, and it wants to give of itself to everyone equally, because we're all the same. Sometimes we need a mystic, especially in today's fast-paced secular world. We need a mystic to give us permission to love, to even hint what love might possibly be. One such wonderful mystic is Rumi. Most are familiar with Rumi and this one quite well-known poem, Out Beyond Ideas of Wrongdoing and Right Doing. There is a field. I'll meet you there. When the soul lies down in that grass, the world is too full to talk about. Ideas, language, even the phrase, each other, it doesn't make any sense. What Rumi is saying is, stop all of this. Stop all of the understanding and let love fill you. I can only meet you there. There is nothing else that any of us want. Nothing really satisfies. When judgment ceases, love flows into your mind and out into the world, and you have become the greatest service of all. Billions of souls come to earth and experience the lack of love. We're like ships wrecked. We don't know where the harbor is, and everyone is having a similar experience to a greater or lesser extent. Imagine the horror of so many souls bereft of love showing up on one planet, and look what we do. To not judge, to come to this planet and just love, not to fix, not to correct, not to point out error, not to admonish, just to say, I love my brothers and sisters as they are. It is my honor to let love go into their minds. Clearly, the world needs love. That's our reason. That's our whole reason for existing. The world I'm describing, this is such a world, and we all see it. We see how much this world is crying for love. We have to stop filling it with judgment. If not us, then whom? Who would it be? It has to start with each of us. We all have to do our little part. It doesn't matter if it doesn't seem to make a difference. I promise you, it makes more of a difference than anything you can imagine. Judging has never fixed anything. Loving will fix everything, and it will take as much time as it takes. We're loved to knock on our door, and we to answer and invite it in. It would nonetheless remain unknown, lest all that we had carefully built to justify our judgment were to catch fire and burn to the ground. Oh, what great tragedy! This fire has razed my life. It has reduced it to ashes. This, I, my earthly self, might say and repeat, and the world along with me. But love wishes nothing more than to burn down the houses we construct in our hearts and our minds to keep love at bay. For love is freedom from suffering. Love is freedom of disquiet, of any and all sort. Why, oh why, would I ever esteem value to that which takes all joy from my soul and pains my heart and builds a prison house in which I live safe from love? If the houses I build within my heart and my mind are but fortresses against love, then please, love, oh please, do me the great favor of setting them ablaze. Do not give me a moment to reconsider. Please, love, I beg of thee, enter my home and teach me to place upon the altar in my heart only love. Love is speaking to all of us, but something in us must first burn to the ground that we may let it in. And that is our judging faculty, that part of us that believes it's justified in loving, that believes that it's right, that it believes it understands what the world is all about, but is blinded by its own judgment. What could be a greater honor than to give love to those souls on this planet right now that you believe are the problem? What are they calling for? Love. In confusion, we condemn. In confusion, we limit love. And if you're clear that somebody is doing that, don't judge them. Know how confused they are. Love. Give love. You know how. Everyone knows how, because it's what we are. That voice is beseeching you, please let me come through you. It doesn't matter if the world seems to change. That's not the point. We need to become so grateful for the opportunity to give love rather than to be right. Every time we're right, we suffer. And we just lead the world deeper and deeper into suffering. The Buddha stated that as the mind is quieted, judgment stops, and there's a bliss that lives within each of us that will rise up into your awareness and absolutely blow your mind. This is the original Buddhist doctrine. Again, Theravada Buddhism. Jesus spoke of the Beatitudes. In Hinduism, there is samadhi and nirvana. All world traditions speak of this blissful, rapturous place that already exists within us, but we're never going to find it when we're judging, when we're being right. The world is confusing. It doesn't make any sense. And to suddenly say, My job is to love. My job isn't to fix. Can seem almost like treason. Like, no, I've got to keep doing what I'm doing. Can't you see how ineffective it is? We have to stop this nonsense in love. It doesn't mean don't care about the world. Care with all your heart, but care so much that you love it, even the parts that seem to be tragedy, especially those parts. This is perhaps our greatest need in the secular world, where in mysticism, loving faith, it takes a back seat to materialism. Truly, secular conveniences are far more valued than loving. I'm speaking of mysticism again and again, because I know of no better way for us to find love in a world that has turned itself into something quite different. One mystic who is near and dear to me is a soul that I recently learned about, and her name is Saint Catherine of Siena. She was a Christian mystic in the 1300s. And this little woman was so filled with love for everyone, and her whole life was dedicated to helping others recognize that they in fact want to love. They don't want anything but love. None of us do. We all want love. And from where we sit today, looking back, it seems like martyrdom when it's actually the greatest. It's such an opportunity. Why else would I want to come here but to connect? Again, our judgment is misguided love. What I want is to connect with everyone. And her connection to spirit was so strong that she, like many other mystical saints, in front of large numbers of people, many times would be so filled with rapturous bliss, they would be lifted from the ground. And she was one such saint who was so reverent, she didn't care about anything except bringing love to this world. It's very inspiring to me. Speaking of giving love, I haven't seen my wife for a couple of weeks. She's been in California with her daughter. Her daughter helps people get clean from drugs and alcohol. And to help a family, she took in their 5-month-old baby so that the parents could go to drug rehabilitation. Love doesn't concern itself with what is convenient. It is simply, this needs to be done, let me do it. Love doesn't say, pardon me, that was a little bit too difficult could we do something, it makes not judging seem easy, taking care of a 5-month-old. Love gives and it doesn't want anything in return. It just wants to give love because that's what love does. I wrote a big book called Healthy Past 100. And this is not an advertisement, please. You don't want to read this. This is torture. This was, speaking of martyrdom and penance and getting right with was this good? No, the point is that what I wrote in this book was 1,000+ pages on the things you'd want to do to be healthy. But I put at the top of the pyramid you'd want to love. You need a reason for getting out of bed each morning that is far in excess of what you believe you are. You need either spirituality or religion, it doesn't matter, but it has to be something that you are reverent to, and you must get your psychology in order. Meaning you've got to stop judging. You've got to open yourself to love. And again, in writing that book, which took me over 8 years, it was all about, it's about many things, but love is at the very top because that's what it takes. Speaking of what it takes, it has taken many, 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 many souls to help me begin to open my heart to love. It has taken the Buddha, Jesus, Ramana Maharshi, endless poets, Rumi, Hafiz, Kabir, saints like St. Catherine, and many friends, to show me that love is safe. And I have no idea how far I've come, and I surely don't have any idea how far there is to go. but I am so grateful to walk this path. And believe it or not, we are all on this path together. Every one of us is on the same path. It doesn't matter if it's that person that you see on the television that you despise. That person is your greatest gift. If you can love them with all of your heart and all of your soul, and you mean it, you're getting free. Because that person is simply saying, I don't know what else to do. I am so afraid. Please, can't you see that I am putting up this front? I don't want to be this. And it's giving us an opportunity to do what this world is calling us to do, which is to love, to love, to love. Because that's what love does. It gives, and it doesn't ever ask for anything in return. Love speaks to us all. May we all have the courage to hear its voice. Thank you. It is such an honor to meet you here in this field. Namaste.
Thank you, Stephen. Our closing hymn is another kirtan, the classic poem Sri Argala Stotram, sung by Krishnadas again. And we're coming in at the middle, after many verses in Sanskrit, followed by the refrain, Rupam Dehi, Jayam Dehi, Yasho Dehi, Dvisho Dehi. And here, Krishnadas has added a verse in English. I want to know what love is. I want you to show me. I want to feel what love is. I know you can show me. So please join in as you are moved with the crowd on the video. And here we go. Stephen.
I think it's evident that Krishnadas actually did go on to be one of the world's biggest rock stars, only of the spiritual bent. Love speaks to us all. It never stops. It always speaks to us all. It does not play favorites. Everyone is love's favorite. You are love's favorite, cherished thing. We can be blissfully joyful, even in a world that seems gone mad by judgment. We have to train our minds. The hardest thing is when I want to judge and to be right, to say, show me love. I want to know what love is. I know it's not what I'm going to do here. Help me pull it back. All of us can pull it back. Love comes through us of its own accord when we ask it to burn something within us to the ground. We must ask it, please show me. I want to know what love is. And we'll find that it's inside of all of us. It's never left us for a moment. When judgment ceases, God flows into our minds and floods the entire world. That's what love is. That's what we all are. I wish you all very well. Thank you.
As we extinguish our chalice, please say with me these words. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
There are some things I may not know. There are some places, dear Lord, I may not go. But there's one thing of which I'm sure. My God is real, 'cause I can feel love in my soul. Yes, God is real.